Good afternoon from the Scottish Highlands. It's another beautiful day here in the far north. July 2026, 20 degrees outside. It's a gentle breeze coming in off Loch Eriboll there behind me. And that's a spot you'll never see unless you get off the NC 500 and explore the interior of Sutherland. Which is a perfect segue to discuss something that we have here in Scotland that, if you're not from here originally, it takes a little getting used to. But I honestly think it's integral to the magic of this land. It's the right of responsible access, also known colloquially as the right to roam. Coming up in today's episode of The American Highlander, we dive into Scotland's so-called right to roam. Can you really just go wherever you want in the country, or are there still rules and laws to follow? We also take a look at Dornoch's new fish and chip shop, the Angry Seagull, go for a scenic drive on part of the NC 500 up by Loch Eriboll, and visit the only beach in Scotland that has a zipline. All that and more coming up after the break. Many people dream of returning to the home of their ancestors, Scotland. Last year, in 2025, I fulfilled a lifelong ambition and bought my dream home in the Scottish Highlands. I've made some incredible new friends along the way, and now, in 2026, I'm letting go of the past and building a new life for myself as I explore this amazing land. My name's Jason, and I live in the far north of the Scottish Highlands. This is my story. Welcome to the American Highlander. The sponsor for today's episode is one that you've seen before, and I'm very happy to say they've come back. So I can show you a long-term test of their product. It's SURI. And SURI creates these really fantastic toothbrushes. The toothbrush itself, very straightforward, multiple speeds. You just press the button. Let me zoom in the camera. There you go. Press it again if you want a slower speed. Pressed again, turned off. This thing works incredibly well, and what makes it really special is the carrying case that it comes in. So all you do is take the case, take the toothbrush, plop it in, press this button. Now the case is cleaning the brush with ultraviolet radiation. So it is making this brush sterile. I mean, as sterile as you can reasonably get. It's probably like 99.9%. It's way above what you're used to. And the reason why that's so important, I have periodontal gum disease. I have severely receded gums. I've had a couple of gum grafts. Long story short, dental hygiene is something that I take very seriously because there are potentially some very serious health consequences if you let that go. And, you know, as our diets have changed in the Western world in particular, more and more people are starting to get all sorts of, periodontal gum issues and issues with tooth decay and what have you. So, legitimately, this SURI toothbrush, which I've been using since the last SURI spot you saw on this channel, and that was months ago, this is my daily toothbrush. Like, no joke, this is what I actually use. And the other cool thing I like about it is if you want to charge it up, the USB port is right there. I've charged it up once, maybe twice, maybe, in the whole time I've had it. So this thing holds a charge like forever. It's unbelievable. Long story short, I highly encourage you, if you're shopping for a new toothbrush, do your teeth and your gums a favor. Get SURI. It honestly is just better. So I'll put the information somewhere up on the screen. Use that information. That way SURI knows that you came from my channel, and you get a discount that way. So try it for yourself. Like I said, I've been using it this whole time, and it's fantastic. Honestly, I don't think I would ever use another toothbrush in my life. I'm sold. All right, let's go ahead and get on with today's video. Okay, let's talk about Scotland's right of responsible access. This is sometimes referred to as the right to roam, but honestly, that's a bit of a misnomer. You'll hear people sometimes say, oh, well, there's no trespassing laws of any kind anywhere in Scotland. That's just not true. It is a remarkably broad public access right that hinges on you behaving responsibly in accordance with the law and the Scottish Outdoor Access Code. Now, it's part of the 2003 Land Reform Act, and it's unique to Scotland. If you go to England and Wales, for instance, they don't have the same set of access rights that we have up here in Scotland. So let's start with the Land Reform Act in order to put things in context. The Land Reform Act of 2003 was the culmination of more than a century of debate over land ownership, public access, and rural power in Scotland. It was driven by three interconnected issues: extremely concentrated land ownership, growing demand for a legal right of public access, and community campaigns for greater control over local land. Scotland has one of the most concentrated patterns of private land ownership in Europe. By the late 20th century, vast estates were still owned by a relatively small number of individuals, families, companies, or trusts. Today, 421 owners, including individuals, companies, trusts, charities, and other legal entities, own 50% of privately owned rural land in Scotland. Critics argued that this concentration affected housing, local economic development, environmental management, and democratic accountability. Now in America, if you own private property and somebody trespasses on your land, we shoot them. Needless to say, in England and Wales, it's not quite that severe, but both of those countries don't have the same kind of rights that we enjoy up here in Scotland. Before 2003, many people walked, climbed, and camped in Scotland under a long tradition of tolerated access, but the legal position was often unclear. Access depended largely on common law, voluntary agreements, and the willingness of landowners not to object. As outdoor recreation grew after the Second World War, disputes increased over blocked paths, locked gates, and no trespassing signs. Walkers' organizations, climbers, cyclists, and canoeists argued that access should be protected by law rather than left to custom. The Land Reform Act has three principal elements. Part 1, it created statutory rights of responsible access to most land and inland water, supported by the Scottish Outdoor Access Code. Part 2, it gave rural communities a legal right of first refusal to buy land when it came up for sale, provided they had registered an interest. And Part 3, it created a specific right for crofting communities to buy land, in some circumstances even without the owner's agreement, subject to statutory tests and compensation. Critics of the law at the time argued that this would create significant issues with private property rights, as well as cause uncertainty for landowners and homeowners, and the introduction of community purchase powers could discourage investment. Supporters, meanwhile, argued that it created clear and consistent rules and guidelines regarding outdoor access and encouraged public outdoor activities, and started to go a little bit of the way towards addressing land ownership inequality throughout Scotland. The 2003 Act is generally seen as the beginning of a broader program rather than its conclusion. Subsequent legislation in Scotland in 2016 and 2025 further expanded community rights, increased transparency around land ownership, and strengthened the role of the Scottish Land Commission in promoting changes to how land is owned and managed. Now, land reform and land management are two very large and very thorny issues in this country, so I'm not going to go any deeper in this video on those topics. I might cover them in a future video. But I thought it was important to start with the Land Reform Act of 2003 because that's where the so-called right to roam was first introduced. And it's important, I think, to have some context that informs what privileges and what restrictions are in place with the right of responsible access. The right comes from Part 1 of the Land Reform Act of 2003. This law created statutory rights allowing the public to walk, hike, run, cycle, horse ride, climb, canoe, kayak, swim, paddleboard, watch wildlife, picnic, wild camp, responsibly, and cross land to reach other destinations. These rights apply to most land and inland water in Scotland, provided they are exercised responsibly. The Scottish Outdoor Access Code has three guiding principles. Respect the interests of others, take care of the outside environment, and take responsibility for your own actions. Access generally applies to mountains, hills, moorland, forests, woodland, beaches, coastlines, rivers, lochs, parks, grassland, most uncultivated land, some farmland, estate roads, tracks, paths, and open countryside. Now, importantly, you do not have to stay on marked paths. You may usually cross private estates, you may often walk through forests used for commercial timber, and you may access many rivers and lochs for paddle sports and swimming. However, there are some important restrictions to keep in mind. Access rights do not apply to the following: houses, private gardens, areas giving reasonable privacy around homes, farmyards, industrial sites, building compounds, construction sites, quarries, railways, airports and airfields, military bases, schools and school grounds, land where crops are actively growing, sports pitches when in use, and visitor attractions that charge admission. It's also important to note that under the law, access only exists if you behave responsibly. This is basic common sense, but avoid disturbing homes. Leave gates as you find them. Keep noise low. Don't block roads or driveways. Avoid crops. Don't interfere with livestock. Follow temporary signs during dangerous farm work. And give animals plenty of space. Keep away from nesting birds. Avoid disturbing deer during sensitive periods. Follow seasonal restrictions where appropriate. Take litter home. Don't damage plants. Avoid erosion where possible. Prevent wildfires. That's a big one. If you've got a dog, keep dogs under close control, pick up their waste, prevent dogs from chasing livestock, and use a lead around sheep and cattle when appropriate. Now, all this is pretty basic common sense, so I'm not going to get into the full text of the right of responsible access. You can easily find that information online, and I encourage you to check out what rights and restrictions are conveyed by that legislation. But there is one element that is not part of the right of responsible access, that is not a legally enshrined privilege under the so-called right to roam. And it's something we do need to talk about. Vehicles. Responsible wild camping is included within access rights. The code recommends small groups, lightweight tents, stay only 2 or 3 nights in one place, and camp well away from houses and roads, leaving no trace. However, camping with large groups, with vehicles, caravans, or long-term occupation is not covered. This is a really important distinction, because there are some amazing spots throughout Scotland that can only be accessed via either just hiking through the countryside or down a private track road. And if you see one of those private track roads, and there's a bunch of them up here in the far north, you can, if you do so responsibly, probably explore it on foot or horseback or on a bicycle, but you cannot do so in a motor vehicle. So cars, quads, motorhomes, camper vans, basically if it's got a motor in it, and pointedly this actually does include certain types of e-bikes, it's off limits, can't do it. So that's really important. Motor vehicles are not part of the right of responsible access. And the reason why I bring this up is because there are certain areas up here. For instance, the Thieves Pass, which starts at Loch Merkland and goes northeast, connecting up to the Ben Hope Road, goes through Strathmore. The scenery up there is beyond belief. Most people will never see it. Or if you go up the top end of Glencastle, you have to stop at Dukeley if you're in a vehicle, but you can continue on foot, and that road will take you up to the south side of Loch Shen. Or the track to Loch Baden Loch, which is just off the B871. These are 3 examples of private track roads which, again, if you're doing so responsibly, you could explore to your heart's content on foot or on horseback or on a bicycle. You just can't do it in a car. So that's a really important point, because wild camping in a motorhome or a camper van, for instance, that's not allowed. Those are motor vehicles. You have to park up in designated parking areas. So, things to be aware of. Now that said, the right of responsible access, the right to roam, is an incredible piece of legislation that I encourage you to take advantage of responsibly while you're up here in Scotland. I'm always looking to spotlight local Scottish businesses for free here on the American Highlander, and Sharon Mackay, who runs the Dornoch Business Improvement District, put me in touch with Magda McNichol, who, along with her husband Grant, owns and operates the Angry Seagull, which has just opened up a new fish and chip shop in Dornoch. So, the Angry Seagull, tell me about this.
So we've been here for just 3 months. We thought the best thing was to get the doors open and just get the food flying out, and we'll catch up with the decor afterwards, you know?
So what led you from a van to a brick and mortar operation?
So we had always said we wouldn't get a shop, purely because even when the doors are shut and you're not trading, you're still, the bills are still coming in for, you know, the rates and electricity and standing charges, whatever. So we were fairly against getting a shop, but this came up just this year. So this is 2026. We found out the shop was available at the end of March. We got the keys on the 1st of April, and we were trading on the 3rd. The reason we took Dornoch shop is because this is where we started. We do have a real love for Dornoch. It's a really beautiful town. I'm sure you'll agree. But we just said, you know, I said I was 52% yes. And I said, let's just go for it, you know, let's just do it. And it feels really good to have a shop. Here we are, we picked up the keys on a Monday and we were open on the Thursday. That's Grant's risk. He's far more risky than I am. I would have waited a little bit more. So I just went a bit more grey in the process. But yes, we were open 3 days later.
That's quick.
It's really quick. It's really quick. And we didn't have any staff. So we managed to get staff together in 3 days. They had to learn the menu.
Right.
They had to obviously learn our health and safety protocol. And what else? Oh, and the fryer, we weren't able to try it until we'd signed the lease. And the gas wouldn't connect to it.
Oh, no.
You know, and this is the day before. But we got it sorted and we were rolling, and we were rammed for 2 full weeks.
Wow.
2 full weeks, until then we came down to
what our projections were.
Okay. That was going to be one of my questions, because you're about a block off the main square. So how does that affect foot traffic, discoverability?
It does affect us. There are pros and cons. We are under the threshold for business rates, whereas if you're on the high street, you could be paying £35,000.
Oh!
Which is, pretty tasty.
Oh!
Yeah, so Dornoch is growing. It's still very seasonal, but I know that there are developments happening nearby, and I'm in contact with Dornoch Bid, who are a fantastic organisation, and we're working together to kind of lift this place up, give it a bit of new life, because it feels slightly separate from Dornoch at the moment, but people are finding us, which is great.
Let's talk about the supply chains involved. So the amount of potatoes that you must go through for chips, that's got to be unbelievable. The amount of fish that you must go through, like the sheer logistics, has it really scaled up since you went brick and mortar?
It has, definitely. 2 days after we moved in, the price of fish skyrocketed.
Really?
And then wholesale, it was costing £6 per fish. Per fish.
What?
Wholesale. So this is why 10,000 chip shops have closed in the UK this year, or within the last 12 months.
Right.
So we do have most of our customers totally understand, and they get it, and they see the news and they know what's happening.
Yeah.
Some of our customers are saying, what, £14 for a fish and chips, which is expensive to some people. But it's not us making it that way.
Right.
It's really not. It should be a great dish for everybody to enjoy.
Yeah.
But we are up against it for sure. We used to only be out a few nights a week with the van. We're open 5 days a week at the moment. Obviously, if it gets busy, we will open at 7 days. But yeah, we're doing large numbers. Thankfully, most of our suppliers will come to us. We're really grateful that we use lots of local suppliers. So we use Grants of Speyside. They've got a place just close to us. As much local stuff that we can use, we use. So our burgers, red pudding, white pudding, haggis, all of that is local. The potatoes are local, and Grant's got some really good contacts of everyone nearby.
Nice. Now, tell me about your traffic that comes in. So is it mostly local? Is it a lot of tourists? I imagine it changes depending on season.
Yeah, it does change through the season. Dornoch is quite seasonal. We really are conscious to take care of our local customers. We know tourists come and go, and we love it as well. We have people online who say, we really want to come and see you. So we love seeing our tourists, we love talking to them, and we love finding out where they're from and what their favourite foods are. And we also love that we've got some regulars here. We're really lucky to have so many regulars. We have loyalty cards, and we've had so many back already. And that's everyone buying 6 meals, and then they get their 7th for free. And we've had so many back, so we've obviously got a really good local following, which we're really proud of.
Is there anything on the menu here that's surprised you by how popular it is?
I would say the most popular dish that we have is the red pudding supper. I've never had red pudding in my life. So, I was like, oh, we sell a lot of those, don't we? That, and people love the fish tacos. We use a nice crispy shell rather than a soft tortilla. Occasionally we put on specials as well. And actually, the most recent special, which is now a staple on our menu, is deep fried Ferrero Rocher with a chocolate and hazelnut ripple ice cream, salted caramel and chocolate drops. If you have a sweet tooth, don't try it. It's incredible. It's so tasty. It's dangerous.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's very good.
Now, if people want to follow Angry Seagull, do you have a presence on social media?
Yeah, we do. We are on Facebook. We've got a good following there. It's a good mix of local and international, and Instagram as well. And we are on TikTok, but that's when I remember to post on there.
After filming this segment, Christine tried the fish tacos and reports that she is now addicted. Needless to say, I highly encourage you to check out the Angry Seagull next time you're visiting Dornoch here in the far north. For today's scenic drive, we're in the northwestern corner of Scotland, driving south on the A838 along the western side of Loch Eriboll. This is one of the most scenic parts of the NC500, but critically, you only get this view if you drive it clockwise. This is the far north.
The reason why nature heals your soul is because it puts a lot of things in context. We're not here for very long. And when you're in an environment like this, it's like the universe tapping you on the shoulder, saying, do you really need to worry about that spreadsheet quite so much? Do you really need to worry about what someone on the other side of the planet is saying about you right now? It is honestly surreal standing here. Never in my wildest dreams. Keep going. You just might end up somewhere interesting.